It's finally here. Day 1 of the Nicola Bulley Inquest at the County Hall in Preston, and it has to be said, it really does seem like a lifetime ago that the mother of two went missing while walking her dog along the River Wyre. This morning, many people will be hopeful about getting an answer to the question that has kept us awake at night: what happened to Nicola Bulley? Will we get the answer? That remains to be seen. As a result of the social media storm surrounding Nicola's disappearance and death, the coroner had taken the unusual step of requiring all those planning on attending the inquest to register in advance. 100 spaces will be filled for the 2-day hearing, and each person has been vetted beforehand. But what can we expect to happen over the next couple of days? Following the discovery of Nicola's body, the coroner and Lancashire Constabulary conducted an investigation in an attempt to allow Senior Coroner Dr. James Aidley to answer 4 questions as are determined by coronial law. These are: who has died? Where have they died? When have they died? And how did they come by their death? In April, the police and Dr. Aidley issued statements after speculation was generated after divers were once more seen in the River Wyre. Dr. Aidley and his coroner's officers were said to have requested that police divers return to the scene where Nicola went missing in order to assess the stability and topography of the bank. Their findings are likely to be revealed during the inquest today. An inquest is usually only held if a death was unexpected or unexplained, or if their death was in any way suspicious. If a death is considered to be due to natural causes, where death is caused by a disease running its full course with no other intervening factors such as old age, an inquest is not required. A person's next of kin, or even friends, are usually allowed to speak at the inquest, with coroners in Lancashire often preferring to hear from someone's loved ones to get a better picture of that individual. Other witnesses can include police officers, for example, health professionals, and members of the public. At the conclusion of the inquest, a coroner will aim to answer the 4 questions: who has died, when have they died, where have they died, and how they came by their death. A coroner will not apportion blame or make a decision of criminal or civil liability, although the outcome of an inquest may play a role in any future proceedings. As well as answering the statutory 4 questions, a coroner must return what is known as a conclusion. Normally, conclusions can be either what is known as short form or narrative, with short form conclusions including taking one's own life, accidental death, industrial disease, for example where someone has died from an illness caused by exposure to asbestos in the workplace, natural causes, drug or alcohol-related death, misadventure, where an intended act has resulted in unintended consequences, lawful or unlawful killing, and road traffic collision. Occasionally, even if someone has clearly taken their own life, that conclusion is not used. This can be where their actions could be deemed a cry for help, or in an instance where self-harm has gone wrong. A coroner can only return a conclusion that the person took their own life if it is clear that the person did a deliberate act where the inevitable consequence would be death. A note left by the deceased person, previous attempts at taking their own life, or a history of self-harm can allow a coroner to reach this conclusion. During the run-up to Nicola Bulley's inquest today, there have been several articles appearing in the media, which is a stark contrast to the several months of silence and silencing of the case across all levels. The diving expert who led a private search in the River Wyre for Nicola Bulley spoke out last night, saying that he has not been asked to give evidence at her inquest today. Peter Faulding, CEO of Specialist Group International, SGI, said that he has not had any contact with Lancashire Police or the coroner since leaving St Michael's on Wyre on February 9. Mr. Faulding and his team spent 3 days searching a stretch of the river using sonar equipment where police believed the 45-year-old mum had fallen into the water, close to a bench where her phone and dog were found. However, they did not find any trace of the mother of two in the section of the river they searched. He later faced criticism when the police recovered Nicola's body and SGI was removed from the National Crime Agency's list of specialists. In a statement issued on Friday, Mr. Faulding spoke out to clarify questions from the press and public, and said neither he nor his organisation have had any contact with Lancashire Police or the coroner. He said, "Our thoughts are with Nicola's family and close friends, and we hope that the upcoming inquest into the death of Nicola Bulley provides the answers they are seeking and deserve." SGI were called to assist in the search for Nicola Bulley by Lancashire Constabulary following a request for SGI by the family. SGI, headed up by Peter Faulding, are proven specialists with decades of relevant experience in underwater search. SGI operates an array of technologically advanced and cutting-edge equipment. Our work is always carried out to the highest professional standards with honor and integrity, and always in the best interest of the families involved, putting their concerns first. Over the years, Peter and the team at SGI have located many missing persons and vital evidence, bringing closure, relief and dignity to the deceased, their families, and friends, whilst providing evidence for official investigations at the same time. To clarify questions from the press and public. Since leaving the scene at St. Michael's on Wyre on the 9th of February 2023, SGI or Peter Faulding have had no contact with Lancashire Constabulary. Regarding this case, SGI or Peter Faulding have not been requested to provide copies of the relevant side scan sonar search data, search reports, photographs or notes made at the scene and from the time spent with members of the family, friends, and police officers from Lancashire Constabulary. Furthermore, SGI or Peter Faulding have had no contact with Coroner. SGI or Peter Faulding have not been requested to attend the inquiry or submit any evidence or statements for the inquest into the death of Nicola Bulley. Importantly, our thoughts remain with Nicola's family and friends. We do not wish to intrude on their grief at this difficult time. Our hope is that their privacy is respected, and their wishes are put first as they go through the difficult period of the coroner's inquest. SGI and Peter Faulding will make no further comments. Also back in the news is the man who was arrested over videos filmed inside the police cordon when Nicola Bulley's body was found. Was arrested again on the 18th of June on suspicion of stalking after police spotted his car near St. Michael's on Wyre. He has been released on conditional bail pending further police inquiries and barred from entering Lancashire, apart from travelling through. Lancashire police said, his bail conditions have been set to prevent the interference or intimidation of any witness, including a number of people from the village of St. Michael's on Wyre, and to not enter Lancashire for any reason other than to travel directly through the county without stopping. The man will report every Wednesday to Swindon Gable Cross Police Station. But the man is said to be fighting back and is preparing to sue police, claiming that he was only driving to Blackpool to film a thunderstorm when the officers pulled him over, after following him for a few miles. He said, "I already have a civil case against Lancashire Police for last time, unlawful arrest. This is no different. They arrested me to keep me away from the inquest." He said in an earlier video, when they read out the details of the arrest, they just said, "This guy's been seen in the area of St. Michael's on multiple occasions and made videos on the area. Multiple people who live there basically feel distressed and they feel like the guy is harassing them, stalking them. That was the basis of the arrest. I'm not allowed to do videos on all these different people who have been named. Basically, they're people who live in St. Michael's, I think." He complained that police put handcuffs on him too tightly and that it was cold when he was arrested and police would not let him put his jacket on. "I think everybody knows that there's no crime been committed here," he said. He alleges in his video that officers were heavy-handed when they arrested him at 1:30 a.m. at his grandparents' house. He says, "I still have marks on my hands now from the handcuffs. That's how tight they put them on. My nan is now a nervous wreck. She hasn't been sleeping over it. There was no need to arrest like that. They could have just knocked the door. They could have even just phoned me and I would have gone in for a voluntary interview, no problem." And Dan Walker, the man who interviewed Nicola Bulley's partner Paul Ansell, recently popped his head up to comment not on the Nicola Bulley inquest, but to air his opinion on the Philip Schofield scandal. As a former BBC employee, he seemed to have a lot to say on the matter, believing that the industry he's worked in all his life is fundamentally ethical. He said, "I believe it's filled with brilliant, creative, clever people who are making programs with the right integrity," he said. "This morning is part of the fabric of British TV, so I hope it doesn't disappear. The last few weeks must have been awful for Holly, so I hope she's okay and that she learns from it and is a better person because of it. It will be interesting to see where they both are in a year's time." Dan also hopes this morning stays on the landscape. He said, "I just hope it's resolved. That's basically what I think about it." The former Strictly Come Dancing star told The Express, "I just hope that it stays on the landscape because I think it's an important program which has had a really big impact on a lot of people, and I think you can tell that by how many people are upset by what's gone on." He said the backlash shows what an important part TV plays in our culture and society. In a world where there's a lot of bad stuff happening, it slightly baffles me that it's front page news every day, he also went on to admit. Dan, a committed Christian who insists that power and success mean little to him, continues. For me, it's not about fame, froth, or fortune, it's about family, friends, and faith. He continued, when I started my career, I was told relentlessly, don't become a journalist, you won't get anywhere. It's a really hard industry to get into, we don't have room for people like you. Dan, who lives in Sheffield with wife Sarah and their 3 children, once danced as a lobster at Halloween because his Baptist family do not celebrate the festival and he would have felt disingenuous in a spooky costume. He also refuses to work on Sundays, keeping the day for faith and family. He said, my father is retired now, but he used to be a pastor. We never had much, everything we had was borrowed. Mum never bought anything for herself. But they both gave so much of themselves to others, says Dan. I still remember my dad's feelings when they finally bought the council house we lived in. It was significant because he was the first person in his family ever to have done that. Dan was 12 when he had his spiritual conversion. I suppose it's an awareness of the bigger picture and the fact that we're a very small part in a very big world that doesn't revolve around us. Having that idea releases you from the stress that everything you do is so important. It's a good reminder to be yourself. As a Christian, I always feel there's a plan and a purpose to everything. So I don't get carried away by the highs or dragged too low by the criticism. In February this year, he had a bicycle accident that left him unconscious for 20 minutes. The driver stopped 50 centimeters away from my head, recalls Dan, who said his helmet saved his life. I remember watching myself on the floor and I was looking up at this tiny white hole in a black screen. Then the hole got bigger and it became the faces of 2 paramedics and a police officer. It's then that you think of the things you've left unsaid or things you've always wanted to do. What he actually did do was call a family friend of Paul Ansell, the partner of Nicola Bulley whose body had been discovered the day before, to check he was okay. I don't know why I did that. I asked him how the family were. Later that day he rang me back and said, why didn't you tell me you were in the back of an ambulance with your face covered in blood? Blinkerhole wonders, could today's inquest reveal something that we didn't expect? Could the police really have found something in the river to explain everything away? Or will the verdict be as expected by many? Unexplained. Somehow, we think that they will do whatever it takes to contain what they consider to be a huge can of worms. Please like and subscribe for more journeys through the Blinkerhole.